Hi, Hollie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes.
Thanks so much for agreeing to be my first ever guest on the Sea Change Cinema. I am honoured to have Hollie Ellis, the Green Boat branding expert, join us for some insight and a wee chat.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm really pleased about this, and I hope that, we'll be able to have more conversations like this as the cinema expands. So,
Yeah.
Holly, I on Instagram last week posted a little dirty word deeming series about branding and how branding is a massive block for people when what they want to do is show their best selves in the public domain. Um, but the idea of branding and being a brand and thinking like a brand really puts them off. So I thought, what else can I do but bring in a branding expert to kind of debunk some of those demons and actually help us shine a light on them so that we can all move forward.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I wanted to chat to you about today, but I would love it if you would just give us a wee bit of background about you and how you got to where you are now.
Okay. So at the moment I am a brand designer for six-figure female entrepreneurs, and it's very much strategic brand design as well. So initially when I first started graphic design, I was 20 years old when I first got into the industry. I was actually doing my honours degree at the same time, my final year, and working at the same time. So that was an interesting year trying to juggle both of those at the same time. But before that, I actually fell in love with graphics at school when I was 17. And I remember going home and saying to my mum and dad, I'm going to be a graphic designer. And they were going, that's a brilliant choice. Because before that, I was saying I was going to be an artist, and they weren't quite on board with the choice of wanting to be an artist. But it was something about graphics in terms of kind of how you can display a an idea, a concept through something visual that's actually really cleverly done. And it's all concept driven. So that's kind of what made me fall in love with it in the first place when I was younger. And then I pursued it as a career. So then when I was 20, I started working at a web development company. I was the only graphic designer there. And then I was made redundant after 6 years. I freelanced for a little bit. I worked at another company after that, and then I decided to freelance again, and then 6 years later here I am.
Yeah, wow, that's some story. Redundancy really does seem to be the catalyst for so many freelancers, myself included. Um, but yeah, you just get into this whole, okay, I have to take control of my own life now because the feelings of being out of control and at the mercy of someone else's decision
Mm,
making is, for some people, going it alone and facing the risks and the fears is easier to deal with than having someone else be in charge of your destiny, sort of thing.
yeah, definitely.
And so you had mentioned that it's women with six-figure businesses.
Yes.
How different is the work that you do with women like that to when you first started out?
So when I first started out, my ideal client was women. I've always wanted to work with women and support them, but it was startup women because at the time I thought, I'm a startup. Why don't I work with startups? So I created packages specifically for startups. My pricing was specifically for startups as well. And then it's kind of changed over the years. So I realized after a few years that the clients that were coming to me had been more established in business. So they didn't want kind of they wanted a more professional look for their business, and they'd been in business maybe 2, 3, 4 years at that time. And then I would say about 2 years ago, I realized that my ideal client had changed again. And I'm always observing what work is coming through, and I realized that I was actually working with more and more six-figure female entrepreneurs, and that's actually who I really enjoy working with, because it's almost as though they're very different to a startup in that they know who their ideal client is. They know what their message is. It might just need fine tuning a little bit. That they already have like a set idea of where they want to be, where they want to go. They have a plan and they're going for it, and they just need support in that. So at the very beginning, I was mainly doing really small kind of tailored packages specifically for startups, whereas now it's very different in terms of it is more strategic. So I support my clients with their launches, with rebrands, and it is very strategic in terms of what did their ideal clients need to hear from them, and how can I turn that into a graphic that's going to work.
Yeah, oh, that sounds amazing. It sounds really challenging but fulfilling as well to be part of this journey that your clients are on. And I mean, you know, the big elephant in the room for all business owners right now is obviously COVID and the pandemic and how it's affected business. Has it changed your business? Has it changed your mentality or the way that you work? Or
a little bit, yeah. So basically, my other half, he is also self-employed and he has a print business. So it didn't quite affect my business as such, but it really did his business, which kind of made me almost pull my socks up even more in terms of what I had to do with my business. Because he's got a print business and his clientele at the time was mainly the leisure industry, so pubs, clubs, restaurants, places like that. And obviously they closed. So pretty much a week before the official lockdown was put into place, his business completely disappeared overnight. So then the pressure was on me to basically make enough money to keep us afloat. So there was a lot of pressure on, and one of the things that I did was I just kind of paid attention to what was happening, to the type of work that was coming in, to the inquiries that I was getting, and I then started to tailor my content around that work. So one of the things I noticed was a lot of the ladies that I was working with were audience building. So they'd all suddenly shifted to audience building, and a lot of them needed lead magnets designing so that they could set up their funnels and build up their audiences. So I ended up putting an offer out specifically around lead magnets, and I got loads of interest in that. And it sounds really weird, but my business actually did really well during COVID. I had like one of my busiest months ever during COVID, but with that came a lot of stress because obviously I was trying to keep both of us afloat, and obviously as a self-employed couple it's really hard because you don't have a regular income coming through from a job. And because of George's personal circumstances, he was in the shielding group as well, so it's not like he could go out and get a job. So there was a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, but I feel like we've come out the other side and we're both still smiling.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Oh, that's so encouraging to hear, and I hope that people watching this can take some comfort from hearing your story. And it's not just your story, but obviously George's as well. Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's quite personal. So let's get into the whole topic of branding. Now, I had like I said, posted a wee series on my Instagram grid that just gave my experience of branding and with my own business, but also with the clients that I work with, and how that is a block for people to get visible online and, you know, attract more clients. So can you just give us a bit of insight into, you know, why it's important and what we can do to stop seeing it as a block, but to see it as something that can actually enhance our experience in our business?
So I think the first thing with any small business owner, and I see so many that are guilty of doing this, is everybody thinks that branding is their logo design or it's their photos. And I see it over and over and over again. And it isn't just a pretty logo, it's so much more than that. And it's actually way deeper than what business owners realize. So the first thing is obviously it's getting really clear on what branding is. But obviously the reason why it's so important is because it's deeper than just your visuals and just the design and how things look, because it's that whole strategy side of, well, why does it look that way? And how can I kind of enhance my clients' experiences? How can I share my message more? How can I tailor my content more to my ideal client? So branding, it's really important because obviously it's going to give you expert status. It's going to give you so much clarity on your business as a whole and your brand as a whole, because there's so many different areas of branding that you can go into. And then obviously it's going to give you confidence as well. That's the biggest thing that I see with all my clients, is it gives them clarity, because it almost gives them a sense of direction in terms of, this is what my brand is all about. This is who I want to work with. This is my core message. This is how I want to position myself within my marketplace. And I'm just going to go out there and do it. And then the confidence side, it's amazing for me to see, because I get clients who I will rebrand, where I've worked with them on their branding and the design side, and they
It's the time of Corona.
sorry about that. That's Lionel.
Lionel, the legend.
Yep, I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. My
This
kids
is
are
real
going to come
life.
in next. Don't worry.
Yeah, so obviously when it comes to the confidence side, like I will rebrand a client, and then I've had one client in the past before send me an email saying how much she's enjoyed the whole process, and she pretty much said, watch out world, like I'm coming. Because it just gives them so much confidence, because it's all about kind of aligning everything to suit you and who you are, and also having a brand that is 100% reflective around your values, what you stand for, what you believe in, your story, everything like that. And it makes such a massive difference to your confidence levels.
Yeah, okay. And so one of the issues that I had around it, I mean, I'm starting to get my head around it more. I'm obviously not there yet, but watch out world when it happens. But I felt like it was really indulgent, this whole idea of, you know, Abby the brand or Abby C the brand. You know, it felt like something that arrogant people did. Obviously, I know
Right.
that that's not the case, but if there's people out there feeling a bit like kind of stuck with that icky feeling, what can we say to them to help them get over that?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that before, actually. So I like that.
That's my
I
annoying
think
superpower.
I like it. I think it's just a case of, you've got to do what's right for you. So if it feels icky and you kind of, oh no, I don't want to put myself out there, you kind of have to kind of go back to your why. I know a lot of people say this. A lot of people say, you know, go back to your why. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's in terms of, you've got to think about, what are you here to do? What do you want to achieve? And how are you going to make that happen? So if you're kind of feeling really uncomfortable about becoming a personal brand and showing up and becoming more visible, then you're blocking yourself. I see this all the time. Even some of my clients, I can see them blocking themselves and blocking kind of getting themselves out there even more, because they're working on the wrong tasks. But I think it's a case of, you just kind of need to practice, but it's also taking ownership of it as well. And I feel as though it's kind of, you do have to step outside of your comfort zone and kind of step up and go, this is who I am, this is what I'm all about, this is who I want to help, and own it and really go for it. Because if you're serious about your business and you really want to impact people's lives, you can't really do that if you're too afraid to show up, and it feels a bit, oh, I don't know if I can do that. So it's kind of trying to reframe it and kind of think, well, this is bigger than me, and think about all these people that you want to help, and just go for it.
Yeah, that's really helpful actually, because as you were talking there, I tried to think about how I've applied that to the work that I do in terms of being visible online. And when I did start to think about personal branding, it actually made me feel quite free, because it helped me hone what I talk about and how I talk about it. And it has helped me separate me from ABC, you know, the content and copywriter. So actually, it gave me an awful lot more freedom than I initially thought. I thought
Yeah.
maybe it was going to be all like, now I have to be really professional and slick, and I have
Oh
to,
no.
you know, be be really serious about this business stuff, when actually it's allowed me to look at how can I be playful with my personal branding and more personal, and give more of me away in terms of ideas of how it would be to work with me. And then I get to keep Abby Cornwall, my personal self, mum, friend, wife, all of that, to a completely different area, so that I can just focus on this one bit. So it's been really helpful for that division, really.
Yeah. I think it's setting healthy boundaries, isn't it? You've got to decide how much of yourself do you want to put into your brand. And I truly believe, and this is really based on all the clients that I work with as well, that you just have to be yourself. Just don't try and be something that you're not. Just honestly be yourself, because people fall in love with people, they buy into people. So the more that you can show yourself and who you are, the bigger the difference is going to make, and the more of your people are going to come to you for you. So it's big.
I completely agree with that. And once you start adding you into your brand starts to get stronger, and you start to actually enjoy the concept, rather than think, oh no, here's this thing that's controlling me. It's actually the other way around. So I think it's a fascinating area. But one question I do get asked quite a bit is, can you DIY your own personal brand? Because obviously you've got a very specific client base, and you work with people who have got a certain amount of budget to put towards this kind of thing. What about people who are just starting to understand the concept of branding? Are they able to do something themselves?
I would say so, yeah. There's a few things that you can do in terms of branding, in terms of the strategy side, but also the identity side as well. So I would say the first thing is consistency. So it's consistency in kind of two areas. So obviously another thing that small business owners are quite guilty of is kind of taking quotes off Google and posting them onto their Instagram or their any social media platforms. And I always think, rather than do that, just put it into your visual branding. So brand it so it's in line with your brand identity. So, and consistency is key. So colors, fonts, photos, because it makes a massive difference, because the more consistent you are in your visuals, the more recognizable your brand becomes. So that's a big one, because I see so many business owners kind of using 5-6 different fonts and 10 different colors, and I'm like, there's no consistency there. You need to pull it back, simplify it, and roll with it. Also consistency in terms of messaging as well. So I think it's really important to get clear on what your message is, like your core message, and share that on a consistent basis as well, because that's really important. And then, to save a bit of time as well, in terms of consistency, if you use anything like Canva, you could create your own templates in Canva that you can use over and over and over again, because that's again going to help you with recognition, and it's going to save you loads of time as well, rather than trying to create a new design yourself. You've got these templates ready for you in Canva that you can just plug and play, basically. And then I think another two that would help is kind of getting clear on who exactly is your ideal client. So I know that there are so many kind of business coaches out there that say you need to know who your ideal client is, and it's almost like it's a broken record that's being told over and over and over again. But actually, it's really, really important to know who your ideal client is, and tailor your content and your services and products to them and what they need. And then also kind of just getting clear on what your vision is for the future, what your goals are, where you want to be, and aligning everything up with them as well, because I think that'll all help. Because again, like I say, a lot of people think that branding is just the surface level of the colors and fonts and a logo, but it's so much deeper than that. So I think if you can get clear on those different areas, it's really going to boost your confidence and kind of give you that clarity to move forward.
Oh, that's amazing, and very well and succinctly put. I know that you have a wee free resource that you would like to offer the Sea Changers. Can you
Yeah.
just tell me a little bit about that and how that might help them as they get into their branding journey or personal branding journey?
Yep. So it's just a PDF guide, and it's just got 3 secrets on how to create a sustainable and successful brand. And I
Okay.
just give an insight into what those 3 secrets are to kind of help you create exactly that, a more sustainable and successful brand.
Amazing. So I'll get the details of that and I'll include that somewhere in the video or the email that this gets sent out in. Have I missed anything out in terms of questions? I mean, what should I be asking you about branding? Obviously, my own inexperience around this limits what to ask, but is there anything that is glaringly obvious that we've not kind of included here?
I think I would probably just like to kind of share 2 things, I think. So the first one is, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, is if you're trying to DIY your branding, don't follow any design trends. That's something I'm really, really passionate about. Because I just think the short term, nobody wants a vanilla brand. This is what I call it. Nobody wants a vanilla brand. You want to be making sure that you're standing out. So don't follow design trends if you are trying to DIY your branding, especially your brand identity, because trends are so short-lived that it's just not going to do you any good for your business. And then in a couple of, well, not even a couple of years' time, because trends don't even last that long. But if you do decide to follow a trend and then it's not a trend anymore and it's gone out of date, then you will find yourself thinking, oh, this doesn't really fit anymore. So it's all about kind of being true to yourself. And your style, which kind of leads me on to the next point that I wanted to make, which is everyone is different. And this ties in with what we were speaking about before, which is you are your brand. So embrace who you are and all your qualities, and get your personality into your brand, because people buy into people. And I'm very much, I don't really have a house style when it comes to design. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in design trends, but I think you've got to tailor your brand exactly to who you are, what you're trying to achieve, and what you're trying to do in this world, and who you want to help. So it's about fully embracing who you are.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What a positive message to end on, Hollie. That's really great. So if people watching this episode of the Sea Change Cinema want to follow you on social media, how do they find you? Excuse me.
So I pretty much hang out on Instagram all the time. So you can find me on Instagram. So it's Hollie Ellis Design, and it's Hollie with an IE.
Great. Okay. And I'll put links to that in with all of the materials with this as well. So I'm going to stop the recording now so that we can end this, and then we can have a wee chat afterwards. But on behalf of myself and the Sea Changers watching this, thank you so much for meeting with me today and giving us this insight. I don't know if you saw me scribbling away, but I've got about 10 different things that I want to go back and look at now. So I'm really grateful for that insight. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to press stop to the record now. Let's see if I can figure it out. There we go.